Hello! This video will provide instructions on how to successfully complete and submit the 2022 Denver Energy Code checklist for residential projects. This overview was developed in conjunction with Community Planning and Development and the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. The 2022 Denver Energy Code offers 3 compliance options for residential project teams to choose from: Prescriptive, Total Building Performance, and Energy Rating Index, or ERI. We have created checklists for each compliance option to help guide submitters through the respective requirements of the Energy Code and information city plan reviewers expect to see on the submitted documents. Downloading and reviewing the checklist early in the design process is recommended to help plan out your compliance approach and building design. You can download the checklists at denvergov.org/buildingcode. On this website, you can also find additional resources such as the current building codes, including the Denver Residential Code and Denver Energy Code. A completed DEC checklist must be included in your permit submittal for most residential projects. The following project types are required to submit a checklist matching the selected compliance path. For 1- and 2-family dwellings, all new construction, regardless of size, as well as additions and alterations with a gross floor area increase or project work area greater than 20% of the existing above-grade floor area, or 300 square feet, whichever is less. New townhouses, both those that fall under the Denver Residential Code and those designed under the Denver Commercial Building Code. And new R3 and R4 occupancy buildings that are 3 stories in height or less. The 2022 DEC checklists do not apply to manufactured homes reviewed and approved by the State of Colorado Division of Housing. More information on the submittal requirements for manufactured homes can be found on Denver's Building Code website. To complete the checklist, it is important to start by reading the instructions thoroughly. These instructions provide context about what projects are required to submit a checklist and where to find the Denver Energy Code for additional details. As you go through the checklist, all fields requiring an entry are in tan color. Make sure to provide as much detail as possible in your responses so that it is clear for the reviewer that your project is meeting all necessary requirements. Let's walk through the main elements of the checklist. For each focus area, the second column indicates the applicable code sections, while the next column provides a summary of the relevant requirements in each section. While the code descriptions are meant to be a helpful reminder of what is required, it is important for users to reference the code to understand all associated requirements and what exceptions may apply to your project. Next is the submittal requirements and clarifications column that calls out exactly what Denver plan reviewers will look for to confirm each requirement has been met. The last 2 columns are for the user to fill out to guide the plan reviewer to the relevant information in the submittal, including the specific drawings or specification numbers, as well as space for any additional notes you would like to include for the plans reviewer. Filling out these columns as thoroughly as possible can help minimize review comments and expedite review of your project. Now let's look at the unique elements of the different checklists. Under the prescriptive path, there are 2 options for building envelope compliance: following the prescriptive tables, or using modeling software to follow the total UA alternative. For more information on these options and the requirements for each, please visit denvergov.org/energycode to access additional resources and trainings. When completing the checklist, select the appropriate checkbox to indicate if your building envelope design follows the prescriptive tables or total UA alternative. If you choose the total UA alternative option, note that you are required to submit a compliance report from ResCheck or another approved software. Projects following the prescriptive compliance option must also meet the requirements of Section R408, which outlines additional efficiency packages that may be selected from. There are different requirements for all electric properties versus all other buildings. When completing the checklist, complete the table in either Section 1 for all electric properties or Section 2 for all other buildings. Make sure you are filling out the correct selection based on your building's fuel sources. Note that R408 is required for new construction only. Additions and alterations do not need to complete this section. Use the checkboxes to indicate the selected additional efficiency packages and use the text box at the bottom to sum the total credit value of all selected measures, making sure the minimum requirements are met. Once the table is complete, include a screenshot of the table on a sheet within the permit drawing set and note the drawing number in the checklist for the plans reviewer. A completed table of the final installed measures to be completed by the builder or other approved party will also be reviewed at the project's final inspection to confirm compliance. Next, let's look at the Total Building Performance Checklist. The checklist follows a similar format to the Prescriptive Path checklist and captures similar information based on the specific requirements of the compliance path. The Total Building Performance option outlines the submittal requirements related to the energy model used to meet the requirements for total building performance in Section R405. In addition to this checklist, the user must submit a narrative that describes how the proposed building differs from the standard reference design. This narrative should match what is shown in the compliance report produced from the energy model. The checklist provides a detailed list of what the compliance report needs to include. In the tan text boxes, provide any additional notes for the plans reviewer and indicate where the narrative and compliance report can be found in the permit set. The last checklist to highlight is for the Energy Rating Index compliance option. Any project pursuing the ERI pathway must submit this checklist as well as the compliance report from the energy rater. The report must show that the proposed design has an ERI that meets the requirements of the Denver Energy Code Section R406. Be sure to check that you are submitting all required items and clarifying where they can be found in the permit set as called out by the checklist to help minimize comments and expedite the review process. Each checklist outlines the required provisions projects must follow relating to the building thermal envelope, mechanical systems, and electrical power and lighting systems. Make sure to fill out each line, noting NA if the provision is not applicable to your project. The submitted checklist must be completely filled out to be accepted for permit. When you submit your project for permit, you must provide a completed Energy Code checklist matching your selected compliance path. A complete and accurate checklist will help ensure a smooth review process. Save and submit the checklist as a PDF. Provide copies of any supplemental reports or calculations indicated in the checklist. This may include a ResCheck report if following the Total UA Alternative prescriptive option, an energy modeling compliance report for the Total Building Performance or Energy Rating Index pathways, and ACCA Manual J, S, and D packages for new HVAC equipment and systems. Construction documents must show all required elements as outlined in the checklist and should be stamped and signed by a licensed design professional if applicable. Thank you for tuning in. For more information and additional resources, please visit denvergov.org/energycode and denvergov.org/buildingcode. If you have questions about the 2022 Denver Energy Code, you may send them to energy.review@denvergov.org. Questions about programs and resources may be directed to sustainability@denvergov.org. Residential questions beyond the Energy Code may be sent to residentialpermits@denvergov.org.